Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me are two of my good brothers and sisters in this hallowed grounds. We have the man behind the Wanderer's Library, good brother Sig.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a wonderful evening.
Mm-hmm. And our Lady of Dragon Gremlin Energy, who is taking her free from getting assaulted by her own cats. Good sister Tabby.
Yes, I am definitely not getting attacked by the cats at this very present moment in the space-time continuum. I am, however, getting attacked by Excel, so it's fine. It's taken over for the cats.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and obviously you all can see the lovely little background that is brought to us thanks to Lucky Clover in the server.
This is bigger than my library. No wonder I study here so often.
Yep.
My library's bigger. I hoard things though, because I am a dragon.
Yeah, but it's
you mess up my library.
I steal your library books. That's what it is.
I know.
I hoard things. I am a dragon.
Yep. But obviously Magic Punk is off the table for this week because of the 3-in-1 rule. We will be getting to that next week, but because I wanted to get some smaller things off of the list, I decided this is going to be the first, and this will probably not be a recurring thing of doing a triple shot. The only reason this is going to be a triple shot is a couple of these are going to be very, very, very light. But we're going to be covering 2 very light games and 1 quick start for today. Now, the first one of these 3 is a game that I did an interview with about 5 years ago. And that was with Lucas Rolim and the numerous works that he's done. One of my first introduction to what I called at the time BroSR. No, it's not that one. It was just referring to the OSR community that was showing up in Brazil.
So not the one we do not tolerate.
Mm-hmm. Although this particular, though, if it was a quote-unquote OSR game in that sense, I wouldn't be talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first one we have is a Moorcock-inspired project called Pacts and Blades. This is a very light, very pamphlet-style game, which coming from Brazil and seeing some of the stuff out of Brazil certainly fits. And there was a Mesopotamian spin-off called Into the Bronze. Actually, no, it was Blood and Bronze. Into the Bronze is a different Mesopotamian project by a different developer.
Oh, goodness.
But obviously, this is a more minimalist approach, because this game's only 40 pages long.
Yeah,
and
it looks very nice, though.
Yeah, that may sound like a lot, but it is a heavily stylized 40 pages. Kind of in the same way Borg is heavily stylized.
Mm-hmm.
So despite the page count, it's not that dense. But then we get to the introduction. Pacts and Blades is a genre-influenced RPG combat and advancement system about slaughtering bizarre monsters from the depths with blades and making pacts with mystical spirits to channel magic. As a minimalist RPG, there are no rule systems for initiative, movement, tracking time, equipment prices, etc. It's up to the judge to determine these things, perhaps with input from the players, and decide how to rule on such things as they arise, and as appropriate to each scenario. What, letting the GM fill the blanks with their own initiative? What a terrible cop out. I kid. And no
Roar.
rules for tracking time, but how am I going to lord over people with my 1-to-1 time?
And furthermore, how am I going to tout it as the greatest thing since sliced bread?
Hmm. But characters can choose to follow aspects of two paths, the path of the Pact or the path of the Blade. You may advance in either path, both during character creation as well as throughout the campaign. Path advancements will occur as a result of training, role-playing, and as part of adventures. Then we have advancement. Advancements are the basis for customizing your character and should occur 2 to 3 times per session. It is up to the judge to give players opportunities for advancements to occur. You begin play with 1 advancement in either path of your choice. And they have an example, say, you find a tome describing a new pact with the spirit of the fairy world, or you receive training from an expert mercenary in fighting dirty with daggers. These being pact and blade advancements, respectively. But the task resolution system, it is a sliding 2d6. Tasks are divided into 4 difficulty tiers, and have their default reference values in parentheses. So easy is 6, average is 9, hard is 12, impossible is 15. The default reference value is always 3 times its difficulty. Tasks can, and then going into what tasks can include. And with the core mechanic, you roll 2d6, add the total. Success is determined based on how well you roll in relation to a task's reference value. A task's RV is a precise measure of its difficulty to achieve. While each difficulty tier has a default reference value for total success, this value can be lowered or raised during the game through path abilities and narrative advantage. When a reference value is changed, the range of partial success is also changed. So this kind of thing kind of reminds me of the Acts table in games like Marvel Phase Rip. So we see the difficulty on one end, and what would be considered a failure, a partial success, or a total success. And this having it set up like this kind of reminds me of resolution systems that you'd see in a game book.
Mm-hmm.
Which are very simplified resolution setups, and they kind of have to be because, you know, it is a book you're playing by yourself.
Yep.
But obviously, if you're ever told to roll 1d3, it's just 1d6 divided by 2.
And then round it up.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of what the difference between a total and partial success is, a total success is you succeed flat out. A partial success is you succeed, but.
Got it.
You succeed, but you lose a shoe.
Mm-hmm. Who throws a shoe? I mean, honestly.
I mean, Shakla.
Chancla.
That's what I said.
That's not a shoe.
I mean, we could go ask my clients. I know that they've had shoes thrown at them. So.
Yep. But when it comes to narrative advantage, players are encouraged by the judge to creatively describe their actions. Depending on that, the judge may lower the reference value by 1 to 2, thus increasing your chance of success. So simply look on the task resolution table and slide left 1 or 2 columns from the original column. So yeah, the column shift you'd see in phase rip.
Mm-hmm.
Alternatively, if a task would fall into one difficulty tier normally, but circumstances make the task more difficult, then the RV is 1 or 2 higher than usual. So we have... But then we have the first of the 2 paths, the Path of the Blade. When you gain a path advancement and choose the Path of the Blade, choose one weapon to apply the advancement's benefits to. For example, you could choose longsword, dagger, bow, etc. Each weapon will have a different advancement value depending on how many times you advance with it. When recording your Path of the Blade advancements, you should notate each weapon separately. Upon your first advancement in the Path of the Blade, when attempting tasks related to your weapon, you reduce the reference value of the task by -1. Each time you advance in this path with the same weapon, it is reduced again by -1, up to a maximum of 3 times.
So you can carry around multiple weapons, for different situations.
Yep. Whenever you attain a total success while making rolls with the Path of the Blade, you pull off a special feat. Roll 1d6 on the following chart and apply its effects immediately. 1. You get insight to your opponent's weaknesses. You receive a -2 on the RV for your next roll against the target. 2. You perform your action with uncanny speed. You can act again. 3. Your opponent is weakened. If his next attack is successful, its damage is reduced by 1 step to a minimum of 0. 4. Your opponent is stunned. They cannot make counterattacks in response to partial successes for 1 round. 5. Your strike was extremely effective. Increase the tier of wound dealt by 1 step. If it was already a severe wound, add an additional moderate wound to the damage dealt. Or 6. Choose one of the above.
I could just imagine someone doing this and they're like, okay, choose one of the above. Yes. It's not how that works.
Then we have the Path of the Pact. When you gain a path advancement and choose the Path of the Pact, select one spirit you have a pact with to apply the advancement's benefits. For example, you could choose Salamander, Mortis the Decrepit, etc. Each spirit's pact will have a different value depending on how many times you advance with it. When recording your Path of the Pact spirit pact, you should note each pact separately. Upon your first advancement, when attempting tasks related to a spirit you have a pact with, you reduce the reference value of the task by -1. So it works the same way as with the Path of Blades. Now, as far as how magic works, each spirit you seal with a pact has a name and a mystical domain over which it has influence. When you invoke your pact to channel magic, the effect must relate to the spirit's domain. Each specific type of effect may only be invoked from the same spirit once per day. The judge has final say on whether an effect is too similar to another previously invoked effect. A spellcaster can only have one effect active at a time. And all magical invocations have a domain, an effect, and a duration. A domain is a descriptive term that identifies the sphere of influence of the spirit which the spellcaster has made a pact with. An effect is essentially a spell. Any magical effect invoked from a spirit must be assigned with its domain. Effects are up to the judge to agree to, but can include many diverse phenomena. The duration is how long an effect lasts and is dependent on the narrative. The judge has final say on how long an effect lasts. So examples of spirit domain can include air, water, earth, fire, death, life, chaos, protection, teleportation, mind, etc. And examples of invoked effects can be damage, 1d6 automatic damage, healing, 1d6 wounds healed, enhancement, reduce the RV of all the target's tasks by 1d3, or curse, increase the RV by 1d3. And of course, if you get a total success, you can pull off a special feat. So either 1, the magic you cast grants you a deeper spiritual connection. Receive -2 to the RV on your next roll. 2, you cast your spell with speed. You can act again. 3, your spiritual connection is spectacular. You achieve your maximum possible effect, i.e. the die is maxed out. 4, your patron is very flattered by your exploits. You can invoke the same effect once more the same day. 5, your spiritual connection is so deep that your body becomes ethereal. For the duration of the invocation's effect, you are immune to harmful effects, unless they can also harm ethereal creatures. And 6, pick one of the above. There's a nice little parallel, and I do find it funny that even a game as simple as this has the justification for the whole once per day for spells. Even though this game doesn't have a setting, it knows, well, you need to give a reason why you can only cast on a limited basis like that. Yes, I'm using this to throw more shade at the Vancian model.
Nothing wrong with that.
Because it outright says in the name, you are making a pact with a spirit, i.e. you're asking the spirit for a favor to do magic.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense. Why would only be able to be invoked once a day?
Mm-hmm. It also is encouraging someone who goes down this path to have pacts with multiple spirits.
Or to just not do the same crap every turn.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then combat actions, such as attacks, are special tasks. You roll 2d6 against an opponent's reference value to hit them, just like any other task. Each opponent has a reference value to hit based on their difficulty. Player characters have a starting difficulty of 2, so RV6, and it goes up by +1 for every 4 combined path advancements they have. For example, a Path, Sword 2, and Pact Salamander Fire 3 character would have a difficulty of 3, so RV9, while a Path Dagger 10 character would have a difficulty of 4. This is a highly simplified version of it, but I can't help but get flashbacks to the class as skill package thing in Sword World. I mean, obviously there are far less classes here than or rather paths than there were in Sword World, but I honestly think this game is encouraging people to have some investment in both pacts and blades. But then we get to possible attack results. If you get a total success, you add the effects of a feat. We already covered the 2 potential feats. A partial success, you deal damage, but then you suffer a counterattack, or a similar consequence the judge feels appropriate. If the opponent hits you with a partial success, this will not also grant you a counterattack. And on a failure, your attack does not hit, and you receive automatic damage from your opponent if you made a melee attack. If it was a magical effect, the judge decides what happens. So best not roll Snake Eyes if you're casting magic.
But that's my favorite roll.
Woohoo, Snake Eyes. No, you need 2 ones for that.
Mm-hmm. But then we have damage, which is in the form of light, moderate, and severe wounds. The highest value of the 2 dice from a successful attack roll is used to determine the attack's damage. 1 to 3, light wound. 4 to 5, moderate wound. 6, severe wound. If there is ever a situation where more than 1 degree of damage would be dealt, or a severe wound would be increased to the next greater step of damage, instead add 1 moderate wound. And anytime a rule calls for automatic damage, roll 1d6 and consult the damage table. And as far as wounds themselves, this is your equivalent to health points, which is divided among among 3 tiers. At character creation, roll 1d6. This value determines your number of light, moderate, and severe wounds. You have light wounds equal to the roll's total, you have moderate wounds equal to half the roll, and you have severe wounds equal to the roll divided by 3. Rounded up in all 3 cases. And it looks like it's a minimum 1 regardless, so unless you roll really well, you're going to be kind of squishy here.
So in other words, this game is kind of fatal.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to recovering wounds, when the judge decides that you can rest, you roll 1d6. You recover a number of wounds from each tier as if you had generated wounds for a new character with your roll. You can never recover more wounds than your normal maximum. After you gain 2 path advancements, though, roll 1d6 plus 2. If the result is greater than your character's current light wounds, this becomes your new light wounds value. For every 2 additional advancements you gain, roll 1d6, adding plus 2 for every 2 path advancements you have. And this is how you're going to be calculating your maximum light, moderate, and severe wounds. When resting, you never add these bonuses to healing. So you may go down quickly, but you recover quickly as well. Which I actually like that, because a lot of times when people make very lethal or high damage games, they focus on the former without thinking about the latter. But armor can add to the number of wounds you have in each tier. These wounds are consumed first.
Yeah, so you have your armor, then your HP.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds about right.
Yep. Plate armor gives plus 2 to all 3. Chain armor gives plus 2 to light and medium wounds and 1 to severe. Leather armor gives 1 across the board. And shields give 1 across the board and stacks with other armor types. And then we have examples of opponents. The light wounds of enemies will always be 3 times their difficulty. And then we have a few very, very simple monsters as examples.
Yeah.
And that pretty much covers everything with Pacts and Blades. There were a few published adventures to expand on the concept, but that's pretty much it. So, what do you think of Pacts and Blades?
Very barren pretzels. I like it. Feel like it would be better for shorter sessions, or just shorter little mini campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and apparently the price went up the last time I checked. The last time from when I last checked. because when I got this on itch, it was only 3.5. Now it's 10.
I see. Yeah, I'm actually looking at the itch page right now. Definitely gonna give this guy a follow because that's some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Lucas Rolam tends to do very minimalist kind of RPGs, using a lot of a lot of domain art. It looks like the last thing he did was Death Knight, which was a solo project.
It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm like, dang, he's done quite a bit.
Yep. But I'd say this I can see why this is referred to as more cocky in fantasy. This especially given the way sword and sorcery works in the Elric books.
Mm-hmm.
And even more so with the way magic works, where messing around with magic is usually involving pacts. Elric earlier on had a pact with a demon of chaos. Although there's a very strong vibe of their alliance being one of convenience more than anything else, and even calling upon that pact is
probably a death sentence.
It's not a death sentence, but every favor comes with a price.
Yeah, that sounds about right too. I mean, you're making pacts with demons. I don't know what you expected.
And I will note some whenever I know a lot of people play warlocks in the most litigious role-playing game. And something that's always kind of bugged me is that the other side of that quote-unquote deal with the devil never has a chance to manifest. Quiet.
Sorry.
I'm specifically referring to in the rules itself, not in the context of somebody's particular adventure.
Okay. I'll be nice. Day.
Times like these, I wish I had the same beads Inuyasha was stuck with. Just to put that on certain people.
So, I mean, I'm just saying that my DM made it so that my character was pregnant, and my character had to have a baby because that was my warlock pact. So, and I had to make the choice. So I'm just saying.
Tonight's episode, the writer's barely disguised fetish. But my point is, when you look at the actual text of warlocks, the pact just makes them another kind of spellcaster. There's not much in the way of guidance regarding the relationship with whoever they have a pact with.
Yeah.
And you contrast this with say most of pretty much any divine caster who has certain things that they're allowed to do and things that they're not allowed to do. And part of me is like, why isn't there that same energy for warlocks? Unless that energy is made by the GM.
Yeah, that is something I did notice about Warlock.
Mm-hmm.
See, I just played Warlock, and my GM did have that energy, so I guess I didn't notice it much until you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm. But we are going to we're going to take 5 while I set up the next one. So
Woo.
So we will see you in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. So, Dharma 6, this project is the brainchild of the same crew that gave us the original Legend system. This was a free thing that was on their website and is on the archives, since they've since moved on from Legend system to other projects. I think they're doing 5e modules these days.
It's like being banished to the Call of Duty mines.
I was gonna say that. I was like, oh, it's the 5e mines.
Though, I did find out that somebody did a spiritual successor called Stuff of Legend, which I feel like I will be obligated to cover in some form in the future. Or rather, the Stuff of Legends is the name of it. And I don't know if it'll be covered in a valley, but it will be covered in some form. I feel like I'm somewhat obligated to do so. And hello there, Lucy the Crow. So, Dharma 6 is predicated on 3 rules of thumb. Never deal with dragons. Character advancement is almost unheard of. There is gaming after character death. The scheme of it is suited to magic-tinted cyberpunk. So I know some people are going to be screaming Shadowrun, but you know how it works with this sort of thing. No one game should have a monopoly on a concept.
Yes.
So, and we have dice hits and tests. All tests in Dharma are based on pools of d6s. This is a success-based approach. A die is counted as a hit if it rolls a 5 or a 6. This is compared against a hit count for most tests, or against an opposing pool's number of hits. Matching directly is a narrow success, and a tie in an opposed roll. There's a degree of success or failure equal to the difference between the number of hits and the target. So tests that easily require a single hit, tests that are easy require a single hit, where tests that are medium require 2 hits, and hard tests require 4 hits. But then we have the attributes. These represent both available dice and the hit points for a character in that attribute. You can increase any attribute for 1 point, however, these cannot go above 6 during creation. The attributes are physical, mental, and then there are 2 more specialist attributes, which are setting defined. The default setting uses the tech attribute and the magic attribute. And when it comes to damage, you don't take damage. Instead, you roll a test with the attribute at risk of being damaged, with the difficulty set equal to the potential damage you could suffer. If you pass, you take no damage. Otherwise, you suffer damage equal to that attribute's a degree of failure. Each point of damage you take to an attribute is 1 less die to roll for actions with that attribute, until the damage is healed by one means or another. The vast majority of weapons do physical damage. In fact, only special weapons can target the mental stat. If physical is reduced to 0, then you're unconscious or dead. If mental is reduced to 0, you're unconscious. If a specialist stat is reduced to 0, that just means you can't use abilities related to those stats. Damage can be recovered either using quick use items or long-term medical treatments, usually only severe cases, or just the passage of time. So, when it comes to character creation, attributes generally start at 2, specialist attributes start at 1. You can raise these attributes, spending 1 point per each. The baseline value is 7 points. And this is spent on attributes, gear, and powers. Higher power characters might go to 8 or 9 at the start. Gear can be magic tattoos, magician's wands, weapons, and so on. We do have a bunch of examples on the sidebar. A single piece of gear consists of 3 things: the power the gear may have, the dice it grants to an attribute, and the limitations that define the context where it enhances your die pool and the power may be applied. A single piece of gear must have 1 power and 2 limitations. Players get 3 pieces of gear: one that offers 4 dice, one that offers 3 dice, and one that offers 2 dice. And there's a few examples given. And of course, there is fluff gear, which is more mundane items. You can have a number of pieces of fluff gear equal to your character points. And
kind of weird how they use fluff in relation to gear that may represent a vital difference between life and death. I was like, that's not fluff. That's kind of key items.
I think the intent of fluff items is those minor things that it's insisted upon by some people to have, like the 10-foot poles.
Mm-hmm. You mean like in AD&D?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But with combat, you do have initiative set up to action orders both in and out of combat. All characters involved in a combat roll their physical and mental stats in dice, with order proceeding whoever rolled the highest number of successes to whoever rolled the lowest. Ties are settled by single die rolls. Now with turn actions are usually free-flowing, with you moving around, interacting with objects and characters, etc. In combat, you can only do 2 things per turn: move up to 10 meters and take a single turn action. Though your turn action may be an additional move if you so choose. Actions are performed in 4 steps: announce, confirm, roll, verify. And given how fast and loose this thing is going for, distance is equally loose. There are 4 range bands, each matching a test grade. Short distances to easy tests, medium distances to medium tests, hard distances to hard tests, and extreme, so sniping distances, to extreme tests. Now, for a typical gunshot in a cyberpunk setting, 10 meters would be short, 50 meters would be medium, and 300 meters would be long. Within 3 meters would be considered melee range, but 10 meters would be at least a medium test if you were throwing a sword or something similar.
My counterattack. How'd you figure that out?
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw a sword.
Mm-hmm. But then, when it comes to attacking, it is obviously a punch is a physical attack, and firing a gun is a mental attack. Okay. I guess
Why would firing a gun be a mental attack?
Because you know how it is when you try to 360 no scope something, you need all that concentration.
You are not wrong. Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Mm-hmm. Now, the attempt to hit is an easy check unless you're dealing with ranges. See the distance rules we mentioned before. If the attack succeeds, then it threatens to deal damage equal to the number of successes. The target makes an opposed roll to resist damage. Which I see where they're going for, but this could result in a matter of chip damage. But with aiming, you can hold your action, then roll a test identical to what you would have rolled for a normal attack against the target. Success means you are locked onto the target until either you move or your opponent explicitly uses an action to break your lock on. So aiming is essentially Overwatch. On the other hand, you have full defense, where you can get one more die to checks to resist damage. On the other hand, if you can be flat-footed, which is what happens if you're attacked unexpectedly, so you have one less die on checks to resist damage until you are attacked. Or for the round you are attacked. I don't know why I said that. And then we have Delayed Annihilation, which allows you to, once per plot arc, avoid the ill effects of a failed test, representing a lucky break of some sort. But this comes at a cost, namely that the luck will be paid back with significant interest at the GM's interest and disposal. Powers are generally considered to be dominated by a given attribute when it comes to their applications and nature. If a power requires rolls of any flavor, it uses this linked attribute. By default, Dharma 6 uses only circular templates. Anytime the size of a template is specified, that's the radius to use. And although I'm not sure what, I feel like that part may have been a copy paste issue because we have that same sentence in the powers section. So we have physical powers, which each of these feels like the kind of thing I would see an adept in Shadowrun have. Or some of them might be akin to COD perks.
So what, like an adept being able to be shot in the chest without having any dermal plating?
Yes.
Ah! Huh.
Well,
Shoot me in the chest. Dermal plating. Hey, shoot me in the chest. I work out.
Well, I think I told you what adepts are in Shadowrun.
Mm-hmm.
So, precedent. Then we have mental powers, which it is still a bit odd that shooting is considered a mental power, but I guess they didn't want the physical side to be too dominant.
Mm-hmm.
But then
kind of a delicate balancing act between the physical and the metaphysical, as it were.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of amusing that all the tech powers are suits.
I like how one of the physical powers is freaking ninja. That is awesome. Yep. I love it. Yep. And then take God armor.
But then there's magic powers, which the spice must flow.
Per session, may ask your game master a yes or no question based on the information your character possesses. You must have a magic of 6 to take this. Examples of permitted scope for this question is this the password? Does this idiot know the password? You know, asking the real questions here. And is this the right drop point to wait with the password?
So I'm just going to say I'm stealing freaking ninja and tank god armor for Leon, just to let you know. He's just going to randomly say he's a freaking ninja, even though he's definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's funny.
Yeah. But that more or less covers Dharma 6.
Oh, dude, crime scene infiltrators. Those are fun.
Mm-hmm. So this one feels even more beer and pretzels than Pacts and Blades did.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
I can definitely see. Yeah, this is definitely a good one. I love it.
This is one that I'd want to do. I think just like maybe like a game night or something like that. Just be like, hey, we're gonna make a characters in Dharma 6, and we're gonna go just play a little game, and just whatever happens, and let's have fun.
All right, we're playing a game of who gets jibbed first.
Honestly, that would be like super fun to have like at like do the things that you like to do, Sig, where it's some kind of like have the characters that we're playing in a different game play this game, because I think that would be hilarious.
Mm-hmm. But
unfortunately, I can't beat people to death with
Yeah.
my subtitles in this one.
yeah, though this Dharma 6, this feels like a 24-hour project.
Mhm.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was written as one of those 24-hour RPG projects, if you're familiar with those.
No.
The idea is pretty much what it says on the tin. You have to write an RPG in 24 hours. You have to log when you started writing and when you finished writing.
God, with my schedule, I don't think I could do that.
I
Well, that
could-
sounds awesome.
I could not do that for sure, because like even though I can write a lot in 24 hours, with my job and everything, unless I had like an entire day.
Mm-hmm. But this definitely feels like an extremely light version of Shadowrun.
Mhm.
Although it is going to live and die on the genre savviness of the table. But that's the price you pay when it comes to this sort of thing. So we're gonna take one. I know we just got back, but we're gonna take one more break before we get into Doomspiral.
Oh, well, I'm ready to go. So, see you in a bit,
Thanks.
folks.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
So, this last one, Doomspiral, is very much channeling Dark Souls. And even though this is only the quick start, the full game was done through on Kickstarter a while back, but I don't think it's fully out yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it comes to us through Soul Muppet Publishing.
Okay.
There was an update on January 12th regarding the Pledge Manager. But they were in the layout process, so it's close to being done, but it's still got a ways. Plus, getting all the art involved is gonna take time anyways. But we do have the quick start at the very least. And I have a feeling I'll be adding this to the short list of games that do Dark Souls better than the Dark Souls RPG that Steamforged put out.
Yeah, I remember seeing something on that.
Yeah, we covered it in the past, and I had said using 5e is one thing, but if they had just stripped the 5e-ness to the skeleton and built it around Dark Souls, it would have had a better chance. But then when we looked at the thing, they're like, okay, why did you fuse health and stamina into position? What the hell? And still have it act as both health and stamina. But we open with a nice little blurb. This land, though, is too old for gods. If any were here, surely they too have perished in ages long gone, or have lost themselves to time and madness, and thus be good as dead. Doomspiral is a game about desperate battles, lonely wandering, and wondrous lands. All the great deeds of legend happened long ago, and all that's left are the dregs of history. The old order weighs heavily on the crumbling world. It stains and buries the sprouts of a new future. The world dies slowly, choking on itself. You stand small on the shoulders of giants, but the giants are ancient, worthless, and rotten. You must put an end to their half-dead world so something good might grow to replace it. You too are cursed. Not even an honest death will liberate you. Strife is your constant companion, peace a long-distant dream. Eventually you will be worn down to nothing, an empty husk, a shell. Every struggle written on your skin and carved into your bones weighing you down until you can move no more. But until then, as long as your fire burns, while you can still draw one ragged breath after another, you can still struggle. You have no future, so you are free to become anything. And this particular quick start is put into 3 sections: the game, the characters, and the adventure. Obviously, the 3rd section we're not going to cover as much.
Oh yeah, it's a small little adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2.
Yep. So this is a D6 game with 3 pillars: travel, exploration, combat. And the first section we have is on the Forsaken's attributes, stamina dice, and ability slots. So attributes is your core stats. 8 is the average. 16 is human peak. Anything beyond that is superhuman. And our attributes are vitality. Your maximum health is equal to double your vitality. Endurance. You have 1 stamina die for every 2 points of endurance. Strength. Some weapons have minimum requirements for strength to wield them, and bonuses if you exceed it. Dexterity, same thing. Attunement, you get 1 ability slot for every 3 points of attunement. Intelligence, some abilities have minimum requirements for intelligence. And faith. Same thing with abilities. You also have a maximum number of invoked stamina dice equal to your faith. So already I can see the DNA of a Souls-like in this, because some of that isn't far removed from ability scaling for effects there. Now, when it comes to tests with attributes, first off, you have to narrow down what is being risked or spent in the test and what would be gained from success. The narrator then sets a target number between 4 or 6, depending on how tough the task is. That is what you have to meet or succeed on at least 1 die you roll to succeed on the test. So essentially, 4 is the equivalent of an easy test, 6 would be the equivalent of a hard test, 5 would be the middle ground. Then the narrator chooses an attribute that reflects the nature of the task that's being attempted, and the player rolls a number of die depending on the score in that attribute. If it's a 9 or less, 1 die. 10 to 14, 2 dice. 15 to 20, 3 dice. 21 or more, 4 dice. And of course, an ally can assist on the test, but only if their attribute is in the same bracket or higher than the character making it. For each assisting character, lower the target number of the test by 1 to a minimum of 2. So teamwork is key here. You can also gain or lose dice if you have suitable tools. You take a desperate approach, +1 die, but you also risk more failure. You are being hurried, -1. You take a guarded approach, -1, but you risk less for failure. If you would be reduced to 0 dice for a test, you cannot take it. If you take a desperate approach, you risk making the situation worse, increase the health you'll lose, or risk additional resources. And a guarded approach is the opposite. This kind of reminds me of the conservative, reckless dichotomy in Warhammer 3rd Edition. Once the die are rolled, take the highest result. If it's equal or higher than the target number, you succeed. If none of the dice met or exceeded the target number, you fail and suffer the consequences of failure. And we do have a sidebar about thread. Thread is the equivalent of souls, runes, or whatnot. It is going to be the currency. Although they don't plan on doing the whole you lose all your currency if you die thing. That works for a video game.
You have to go get it back.
Yeah, that works for a video game, not so much for a tabletop. Though they have put into the sidebar, you can, if you want to make the game more difficult, you can do that if you want, but we don't recommend it your first run.
Right.
So with health, it's self-explanatory. When you have 0 health, you enter torpor. We'll get to that later. Your max health is equal to double your vitality. You reset your health when you rest at a tether. So there's your bonfire.
Nice.
With stamina die, you have a number of them equal to your based on your endurance attribute, which are in two pools: your ready pool or your exhausted pool. Stamina die in the ready pool are available to spend and roll, and then move to the exhausted pool when they can't be used. At the start of combat, all stamina die begin in the ready pool. You roll stamina dice to take most actions in combat. When it's your turn to act, you can take as many actions as you like, so long as you have the stamina dice in your ready pool. You regain stamina dice from your exhausted pool at the start of each round, based on the weight class of your armor, or by taking the rest action. If you are told to exhaust a number of stamina dice, these aren't rolled and move straight to exhausted. Because then we have abilities and ability plots. The abilities fall into three categories in this quick start: Arts of War, Geomancy spells, and Sacred Psalms. So with the latter two, we kind of have the whole pyromancy and miracles setup. Although we'll see if this is operating on charges or something else. I don't think we're going to be dealing with the whole charges with attunement the way you did in, say, the original Dark Souls, because that didn't stick around.
Yeah.
But, and of course, you can change which abilities are in those slots when you rest at a tether. Then with armaments, this is going to be your equipment. First off, weapons. Each weapon is either melee or ranged and has a weight class that dictates its properties. So we have the weight class itself, which is either unarmed, light, medium, heavy, or colossal. The parry rating, the stamina cost, so how many stamina die you're going to be spending when doing it. Bonus damage per extra dice, and any handling requirements. So a heavy weapon, you have to wield it two-handed unless you've got 16 strength or higher, in which case you can do it one-handed. And colossal weapons must be wielded two-handed.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
So the parry rating is the TN you need to meet or exceed to use this weapon to parry an attack. The stamina cost is the number of stamina dice you must allocate to an attack made with the weapon. The bonus damage is additional damage for each stamina die beyond the first rolled as part of an attack. And handling requirements. Obviously, if you are going to be doing it one or two-handed. When you're using a non-unarmed melee weapon in each hand simultaneously, you sacrifice defense in exchange for additional offense. When you attack, enemies must re-roll successful parry reactions once, or must re-roll their highest single die when taking the block reaction. Then we have ranged, which operates on the similar rule of 4 weight class. In this case, it is just stamina cost and damage per hit.
All ranged weapons must be wielded with two hands.
Mm-hmm. And we have shot target numbers. Unlike melee weapons, ranged shots aren't guaranteed to hit their target. For each shot you make, you only hit and deal damage if at least one stamina dice you roll meets or exceeds your hit roll target number, determined by your dexterity. So if it's a 6 or less, 5. 7 to 15, 4. 14 to 22, 3. 23 or more, 2.
And this is D6s, if I remember right.
Yep. Everything's D6s.
So, yep. So that's a huge gamble if you're taking a shot with a ranged weapon.
Mm-hmm. But for each shot that hits, that much damage is dealt to the target. But then we have weapon techniques, which are specialized combat maneuvers that can be utilized by specially shaped weapons and are thus inherent to them. Weapons specify if they have an applicable technique, which come with benefits and drawbacks or restrictions. This mostly applies to melee weapons, but there are some special ranged weapons that also feature weapon techniques. The three examples we have here are sweeping, overwhelming, and defensive. You could almost say that they're an art that you're applying to your weapon. No, that sounds ridiculous. But sweeping, when you attack an enemy group, double the value of the attack's damage die if there are more enemies in the group than the die's value. Overwhelming, when you declare your first attack for a round, you may also spend any amount of your position as part of it. Increases the attack damage by the amount you spent. And defensive, when you take the block reaction, if you have leftover stamina dice after reducing the triggering attack's damage to 0, deal the total of the excess dice as damage to the target and exhaust them instead of recovering them. The enemy can't react to this damage. The good old parry and riposte.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have the matter of armor, which determines how much damage you subtract from attacks, how many stamina dice you regain each round, and your dodge and initiative ratings. So the deflection value is, if you are targeted by a strike, damage dice that are equal to or less than your armor's deflection values do not deal damage to you. When you're targeted by a shot, the shot deals no damage to you if its roll to hit matches one of your armor's deflection values. Which means colossal armor, they need to roll pretty good consistently, or you are not getting
They're not
hit.
hitting shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to say, you ain't hitting shit.
Yep. Now, stamina regain. At the start of each combat round, you regain a number of exhausted stamina dice equal to this value. So, heavy armor means you're regaining stamina much more slowly, so that tracks. But then we have dodge rating and initiative rating. So dodge rating is a number you must meet or exceed on your dodge reaction to successfully dodge a strike or a shot while wearing the armor. Initiative is a number your initiative roll needs to be to successfully take the initiative and act before enemies. And shields can be used for both the block and parry reactions. For the shield's block rating, when you take the block reaction, you can roll up to this many stamina dice as part of that reaction. The parry rating, this is the number you must meet. Oh.
Uh-oh. Is your mic okay?
My mic's fine. I was wondering if I was getting an echo from somebody.
Not me. I got headphones.
That was weird.
That was weird. It felt like you were kind of going underwater for a moment.
Oh. There it is. All right, testing 1 2. The quick brown fox went over the lazy dog. All right, I think I can just chalk it up to Discord being Discord.
I hear you.
Mm-mm. But then we have combat, which is divided into rounds. Each round, all combatants have a chance to act. Enemies go in the middle of rounds, and characters go either before or after them. Both sides can also take reactions. Almost everything you do involves rolling stamina dice, with better rolls achieving better results. Enemies use move dice instead of stamina dice. These are rolled each round, and each different result indicates something they will do that round. But position represents a number of concepts like controlling space, how balanced your form is, and your actual location compared to your foes. The higher your position, the more control you have over the situation. Unless stated otherwise, characters may have a maximum of 12 position. Some abilities require you to spend position, but you must also keep a careful eye on your position, as many enemy attacks use character positions to determine who they target. Having a high position usually keeps you safe, but that might leave your compatriots in danger. You can increase your position by taking the reposition action and spending stamina dice. But you can also lower your position at any time, even in the middle of enemies' actions, potentially protecting an ally in a crucial moment. Position is not usually used outside of combat, and your starting position is determined when a new battle begins, so there's no need to track it between fights. Now, if you end up dying, you're not dead. You're in torpor, a state more than sleep but less than death. At the end of a fight, if any Forsaken are still alive, all Forsaken in torpor awaken where they lay at 1 health. If all of them are, they instead awaken at the last tether with all health, stamina dice, and abilities restored.
But all the enemies are back to life and out for blood.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what it feels like.
Oh, yeah. So at the start of combat, you first determine initiative. The narrator rolls d6 and announces the result. If the result is equal to or greater than a character's initiative, determined by their armor, they can take actions both before and after their foes. Otherwise, they can only take action after the enemies have acted. So we do have a group stage initiative approach. Not bad. When starting combat, all characters start with 4 position. If they have an environmental or circumstantial edge over their foes, i.e. high ground, defensible terrain, etc., you start with 6 position. If the foes have the edge on them instead, you start only with 3. And a combat round comprises all of your actions and reactions. And of course, enemies have move dice they use instead of stamina. But at the start of a round, you move a number of stamina die equal to your stamina regain from exhausted to ready. And as far as what you can do during a round, first we have attacking. You spend 1 position, then declare who you're attacking and the number of stamina dice you'll roll, depending on your weapon's weight class. Then roll all the stamina dice for the attack and choose 1 result. For melee weapons, the result is the amount of damage it deals. For ranged weapons, the result determines if the attack deals damage or not, depending on dexterity. Each enemy you target...
Swing and a miss.
Yep. Each enemy you target with the attack can react to each attack you make. So while making lots of attacks is a good way to get in lots of damage, it exposes you to more risk. The reposition action doesn't just represent moving around the battlefield, it can also be small shifts in your stance, finding your balance, or manipulating the battlefield to grant you more favorable positioning. You roll any number of stamina dice and gain position equal to the highest single result. Now, of course, if you haven't taken any actions, not including reactions, that cost stamina, you can declare that you rest instead. You gain a number of stamina dice equal to your armor's stamina regain, and you can't take any other actions this round, but you can still react. Of course, you can also use items or abilities. the ability or item will indicate any requirements, such as stamina dice.
So some items or abilities are time-consuming to use. In such cases, the description indicates that using an item or ability precludes you from taking other actions that round.
Mm-hmm.
Decent trade-off.
Yep. Now, high strength or dexterity grants bonuses to attacks. When you take the attack action, you can choose to gain a benefit from either strength or dexterity. So once again, the good old strength build versus dex build.
Tale as old as time.
Mm-hmm. If you choose strength, for each additional stamina die rolled for the attack beyond the first, add your strength damage bonus to the attack. If you choose dexterity, add the dexterity damage bonus. And the bonus is if it's 13 or less, no bonus. 14 to 20, 1. 21 to 29, 2. 30 or more, 3. And of course, when you're targeted, you can take a reaction to defend yourself. Some spells or abilities can be used as reactions, but the following reactions are available to anyone. You can only react once, but you can react as many times as a round as you like, as long as you have stamina dice to spend and meet the other requirements. So first we have dodging. Roll any number of stamina dice and pick one of the results. If it matches or exceeds your armor's dodge rating, you avoid all damage. If you fail to dodge, you take the attack's full damage. Parrying. You declare which weapon or shield you use to parry and roll 1 stamina die. If it matches or exceeds the parry rating of the weapon or shield, you parry the attack and avoid all its damage. Furthermore, as you throw the enemy out of position with your move, they must discard their highest remaining move die if they have one. If you fail to parry, you take the attack's full damage. And blocking, roll any number of stamina dice your shield allows, then reduce the damage of the attack by the results of each stamina die. Once all results have been deducted from the damage, you take any remaining damage that you failed to block. Should you reduce the damage to 0, any leftover stamina dice you didn't need to spend to reduce the damage are returned to your ready pool without being exhausted. So technically you could blow through your whole stamina pool, but that's not a guarantee you're going to reduce the damage to 0. Then we have combat conditions, things like obstacles, fighting in tight spaces, fighting in dangerous terrain.
Fight tight spaces, that's a good game.
Oh yeah, and its follow-up, Knights in Tight Spaces.
Yes, I've seen that.
But you have 6 status slots, numbered 1 through 6. Each status slot can have 1 status effect on it. These can help or hinder you. When you gain a status effect, place it in an empty status slot of your choice. While you have an effect in a status slot and roll the slot's number on a stamina die, you activate the status effect in that slot. If multiple die would trigger the same status effect, it only affects one of them. Some effects clear when triggered, some have specific circumstances that clear them, and some move down through lower numbered status slots before they clear. If a status effect in the 1 slot would move down, remove it. Status effects cannot move up beyond the 6th slot. This is a very Souls-like approach of building up a meter with status effects, and if that's full, then you're screwed.
Yep. Yeah, because that's instant death a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. And just as an example, bleeding. When it triggers, you lose 1 health. When you regain health, you may clear 1 bleeding status for each health you regain. And let me... was looking for where it says about triggering them, but I think it's just triggered at the start of turn. But then we have the matter of tethers, which, as mentioned, is basically a bonfire.
Yep.
And of course, and just as you mentioned, if you recover at a tether, then enemies are back at the described realm or original position or the wandering encounter table. They also recover all lost health. Now, in the full game, there will be exploration rules, even more so than what's in here. But for now, it just goes into, with fall damage, you take 1d6 damage for each 10 feet fallen. You can react to traps like enemy attacks, but you must declare the reaction when you first become aware of the trap. But then we have a few sample characters. And I do like the sample spread with these. So with the first one, we have the Choir Crusader, who has one Sacred Palm and one Art of War. And the Tomb Robber Scum, the Scholar of Enso Ariok, and I like that even though these are Quickstart characters, there's still options that you can take. It's almost game book like.
Yeah.
Or rather, the playbooks
The
you would
artwork's
see
actually... Yeah, the artwork's pretty nice too.
Oh yeah.
Especially the Stalvagar Knight.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Although the Prophet isn't too bad either, but I might be biased because of my polearm brain rot.
Hey, we all have our preference of weapon. You like polearms, I like swords.
Mm-hmm. But obviously the next thing is Ancient Powers, which is where they're going into the three kinds of abilities: the Arts of War, Geomancies, and Sacred Psalms. You can have any combination of these abilities as long as you meet all indicated requirements, and you can only use abilities that are in one of your ability slots. So the Arts of War, these are the martial options. Oh, imagine that, martial characters getting to do more than just basic attack.
But I like swords.
Now, each art's description specifies when you can activate it, how much position it costs, and any other requirements for its use. Unless stated otherwise, damage dealt by an Art of War is the same type as the weapon you're wielding. So we have Barreling Charge, which costs all your position. It is an action. Choose an enemy who can attempt to dodge the reaction. If they don't dodge it, discard all their move dice with value less than the amount of position you spent. Or we have things like Duelist Advance, which costs 3 position. Perform this while taking the parry reaction. You roll 2 dice for the parry instead of 1. If the parry is successful, you gain position equal to the die you didn't use for the parry. Also, Stalvagar Dragonbite is basically their version of Cleave. Costs 3 position. Perform this art when your melee attack reduces an enemy or member of a group to 0 health. You repeat the attack using the same stamina die with a new target. That's Cleave.
Yep. It's basically the freaking sweeping strike of a barbarian from castles.
Mm-hmm. But and it looks like Arts of War don't have any stat requirements. You're just spending position, which I feel like position is gonna be the martial MP. But then we have Geomancies. I'd say Geomancy would be the equivalent of sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
So a Geomancy in an ability slot gives you the ability to cast it a certain number of times, as indicated in its description. So we are operating on charges. Never mind. Unlike other abilities, multiple copies of a single Geomancy can be allocated to ability slots if multiple copies are owned, each providing their own casting allowance. When you cast a Geomancy, spend one of its casting allowance and resolve its effect. Resting in a tether restores all spent casts. So let's see, we have Alter Landscape, which lets you shift the earth to the precise angle of your blow. You create a number of stone blocks, which are obstacles at positions of your choosing. But one of them is Magister's Arrow. Soul Arrow. Got it. So you need 8 intelligence. Nice. Has a casting allowance of 20. As an action, you fire an arrow of magical energy at a foe. Spend at least 1 stamina die and fire an additional arrow for the 3rd and 6th spent die. Each arrow hits automatically, though enemies can react if able, and does damage based on your intelligence. So it's doing either 3, 6, 8, or 10 damage. Then we have Manifest Memory. Requires 12 intelligence, has a casting allowance of 3, which lets you restore a broken object to its original condition for the duration.
So it's like if you're trying to solve a specific puzzle, it'll temporarily put it back together so you can find the solution, then it'll just go back to the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
Very useful, actually.
Yep. But then we have Sacred Psalms, which to cast it, you must invoke between 1 and 3 stamina dice. Typo. Roll the invoked stamina dice and resolve the psalm's effects as directed by its description. Unless stated otherwise, any damage dealt by a sacred psalm is holy damage. Now, the stamina dice that you've invoked with sacred psalms cannot exceed your faith attribute. For invocation, specifically your invocation total. Basically, this is almost a reverse MP, because it is saying this is how much stamina you are capped at.
So these are just miracles in another form.
Mm-hmm. But like we have our Arias Rise unto Heaven. Grants an ally a number of Blessed Strike statuses equal to the number of die you invoked. Blessed Strike, the status effect only triggers during attack actions. The triggering attack deals double damage, then clear the status effect. So I do like that geomancies and psalms work very differently from each other,
Mhm.
instead of just being different effects. I'm always in favor of having different styles of spellcasting operate under different systems.
Mhm.
Obviously, for reasons of emulation, I didn't do that with Legend Edition, but I kind of did.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have your different, you know, forms of magic, and then of course you got the high magic and necromancy and illusionists and all that good stuff.
Hmm. And there's also the fact that within my system, your the casting jobs that grant it do have a lot more than just granting that particular spell list. There's a difference between a scholar using white magic and a white mage using white magic. But then we have Remnants of the Dead, which covers items you may find. Unless stated otherwise, items are consumed on use. Some have lingering effects, which are tracked with a duration die. When told to create a duration die, place a d6 with its 6 face showing in play area to represent the effect's duration. At the start of each round, reduce the die's value by 1. So
Hmm.
that's a familiar kind of use of durations.
Yeah.
Mhm. So we have things like throne, special ammunition, weapon enhancements, shield enhancements. Weapon and shield enhancements create a duration die for their effect. Uh, I'd say these are akin to those one-off items that give you a limited buff. And then there are things.
I was like lighting my sword on fire in Demon's Souls.
Mhm.
Good for dealing with the slimes, which were a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, and that is a very Kingsfield thing to have.
Hmm.
Uh, and instead of requiring spellcasting to be a catalyst, it just makes it a little bit easier. For example, with the augment talisman, which gives you +4 to intelligence when casting geomancies. Or the 6 bead rosary, which, while held in a hand, you add 1 less to your invoke total when invoking a psalm, to a minimum of 1. And there are a few others, and then it goes into the scenario, or rather a bit of GM advice, including including the rules for enemies. Specifically, some enemies are encountered in groups. That's basically your swarm rules. Uh, Enemies don't track position and stamina. Instead, their move die is rolled, and each result on that roll represents an entry on the move table. Moves can give them effects for that round, actions for them to perform, or reactions they can take if triggered. Each move die is discarded once used, or at the end of the round, whichever comes first. And because of that, I'd wager that you could play this game GMless, or even solo.
Oh yeah.
And see if I can find if I can find an example of a opponent, so I could showcase that. Ah, here we are. Washed Up Witch, 2 move dice, 3 health. Ah, and right under that is the results of how move die work. So 1 does the cowardice stance. 2 driftwood shield. As a reaction, block d6 damage. And we have weep, wail, gnash teeth, no action. Or at 6, Mad Flurry, a d6 plus 2 light melee attack. Target gains 3 position. Which definitely fits. But obviously the rest is just covering other enemies. But the Warden has Rip and Tear as one of its actions for its second phase. I'd say with this they're doing the whole phase thing that you would see with bosses in Souls games. Or as you go down the phases, they expand their action pool. In this case, with the Warden, its first setup is standard fighting with the halberd, and then in its second phase, when it's reduced to 14 health or less, now it's fighting like an animal. But that more or less covers Doomspiral. So, with that in mind, what do you all think of what it's doing here?
I'm terrible at Souls games, so I would die in this like instantly, but I'd still play it just for shit. Okay, that time I heard that echo.
Mm-hmm.
That was not me.
Yep. But this most definitely feels very Souls. And because of the arts of war and all of that, I'd say this feels the most like Dark Souls 3. Which was where weapon arts were introduced. But what I find interesting is that this could very easily be played as a solo game, if someone wanted to. And as I said, I appreciate the fact that the magic systems are not operating exactly the same. Arts of War take up position. Geomancy has charges, and Invocations have reverse MP. But also, something that I like with Invocations is flexible cost. So there's a bit of risk-reward here as well. But I certainly look forward to when the full game comes around, when that happens. So okay, saying this feels like a final remix of the ideas from the Japanese TTRPGs of Dark Souls and Elden Ring, with some tweaks for flavor and ease of use. I don't know if the Dark Souls TTRPG that Kanakawa made has gotten a full fan translation, and the Elden Ring one is incomplete. Actually, I think both translations are very much incomplete. Although there were some additional things that were done with the former, from what I was able to get, because again, wasn't fully finished. But I'd be willing to sign off on Doomspiral if somebody wants to do something Souls-like.
If only I weren't so terrible at these, I'd be down.
You just have to pray that one die rolls high. Then again, that praying to RNGesus, and we know how that goes.
The dice gods show no mercy. Amen.
But with all that said, that will wrap up this particular experiment of trying to do 3 lighter projects in one go. I don't think I'm going to be doing this again, at least not for a long while. The next time we do a one-shot, it's going to go back to double feature. But next week we will be returning with more of Magic Punk. And so I'm saying they just need a Neo-like supplement, and I'm sold. I think Neo should not be tacked onto Doomspiral. I think it should be done in its own approach. And if I'm being honest, Neo has gradually shifted away from being a Souls-like and into being more character action.
Yeah, I noticed that with Neo 2.
And from what we've seen with Neo 3, they're going further into that direction. So in a roundabout way, it's kind of mirroring what happened with Onimusha. Like, the original Onimusha was very survival horror, but 2, 3, and Dawn of Dreams were less that and were more straight-up action games.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's Onimusha Tactics, but that's a different weird case. And the upcoming Way of the Sword project seems firmly in the realm of character action. But it is interesting how that kind of shook out. And instead of having a hack of Doomspiral, I would much rather see if someone's going to do Neo in tabletop form, I would rather them build from scratch. I do not think a Souls-like TTRPG is the way to go with a basis for something like Neo. But for other Souls-likes, yeah, probably. And I know somebody might say, what about Sekiro? Sekiro is not a Souls-like.
And while we're at it, neither is First Berserker Kazan.
Yeah, I mean, so Kazan has the stamina setup, but because of the way it handles parries and the fact that when I tried to play it like a Souls-like, I got my ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
When I went, fuck it, we ball, I started winning fights. Because its parry setup is far more aggressive. And the original Dark Souls developed a problem of people playing defensively. And in a roundabout way, I wonder if Bloodborne was an attempt to address that.
Maybe.
So I do recall Miyazaki stating he wanted people to play more aggressively and not as defensive. So there is a possibility. But with that said, I will catch you all tomorrow for the return of the Agito Arcanum selection trial in the Cloister of the Dice. And hopefully, if we'll be back here on Sunday to explore tackling FF9 in Legend Edition.
Woo! Now that I've gotten everything done for that table, I think I can stop by.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will try to do it at 3. If I have to delay it, it is what it is. But we will see you for that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
See you on the trail.
Care.